In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how, using some simple elements, that you can design a paper cutout graphic illustration that can be used and modified for wedding table number cards. I'm just going, before we get started, you'll want a font, a good script font that has some thickness to it, like the one I have here. It's the OnTel font. I think I found it on Google's font library that you can download for free. But any good script font will work for this type of illustration. And then I have this generic calligraphic element here. You'll want something like this, perhaps. Maybe as you go along, you might want something else or a different type of graphic element, but you want something that can help fill up the negative space around the number of the table. So to get started, my document size is an 8.5 by 11 inch workspace. That'll matter when we get to the drop shadow part of setting up this effect. So to get started, I'm just going to use the rectangle tool to create a rectangle that is the same size as my workspace, so 8.5 by 11 inches, and I'll just hit P on the keyboard to center it on the page. Next, I want to grab the ellipse tool and just create a kind of oval that is about, yay big in size in terms of the relationship to the overall size of the document here. So yeah, I think yeah, that looks good. All right. The next step is I want to take my number here, and I'm just going to bring it inside of my oval shape, and I'm going to want it not quite center. I want it a little bit above center, because I'm going to use the word down below, and I want the word to just barely be off the edge of the oval here. Let's see, we'll play. So won't worry too much about placement size. We just want to get our elements in place at this stage. So I want to bring in these, and I'm going to have the same type of effect where it's going to look like it's bleeding in from the edge here. So I think that'll be good. And I'm just going to hit plus on the numpad to duplicate the object. Then I'm going to make sure that is still selected, and then select the rectangle object, and I'm just going to click to mirror it horizontally. So now I have two. Now I'm just going to kind of adjust this so it's slightly more centered between the two objects. So I think that looks good. So the next step is we want to create our kind of layered steps for our paper cutout effect. So what I'm going to tool that's going to make this, I guess, the easiest is the freehand tool here from the left toolbar here. So I'm just going to grab that, and I'm just going to kind of just trace around the one a bunch of times. And this is going to give us our kind of stepped cutout. This is just generic, not really, there's no, I guess, science to it. It's just how it looks to you, and how many steps you want. I think this will be yeah, I think that'll be enough steps. So now I just want to do a little cleanup. So I'm going to just grab those shapes I just created, and for ease, I'm just going to combine them for right now. And I'm going to switch to my shape tool, and I just want to verify that all the shapes are closed. Looks like they are. Next thing I'm going to do is select all the anchor points, right click, and I'm just going to change all the anchor points to a smooth transition, just so we don't have any jagged edges. And now I'm just going to kind of adjust some things just to give it a little bit better look, I guess. Some smoothing out some of the transitions here. Okay. So once you have things looking the way you want with your kind of cutout shapes, we will work on assigning colors. So I'm just going to give it a gray, and once you're done with the object selected, just hit Control K on your keyboard, and that'll break up all the shapes back into individual objects. So now I just want to get them into the order of layers, I guess. So I'm going to select this one, hit Shift Page Down, then Shift click the second one, do the same thing, Shift Page Down, and just repeat this until all of your objects are now going to be are all visible with their fills. We'll just do that. Alright. Once that is done, I want to start getting all the objects trimmed and set up for the cutout effect. So I'm going to select the oval, and I'm just going to hit plus to duplicate, and I just want to scale that up because this is going to be just the topmost layer. So select the original oval and select the rectangle, and I'm just going to go up to the top here and combine them, and I'm just going to give them just a dark fill so you can see that it's now has the center cut out. So now everything else is going to be a step down below. And that's the effect we're going for. Um, let's see, I'm going to, next step is I want to basically trim each object from the previous one. So we have the topmost layer here. I'm going to select the second one here, then select the top, and I'm just going to trim using the Pathfinder tool at the top. So now this object has everything inside of it trimmed out. And I'm just going to repeat that step all the way down to the one here. So select this one, trim from the one above it, repeat that again, and one more time. So now if you did it right, you should have all these individual objects for each layer. Once that is done, we are going to give our objects our gradating colors. And I already have my color swatches here, but if you don't, a quick and easy way to get a smooth transition, smooth gradation of colors is to take two swatches, your darker color and your lighter color, and use the blend tool over on the left here, and just blend between the two objects, and you can determine how many steps between the two objects, just to get, this way you'll get just a smooth transition of colors here. And then you can hit Control K and then ungroup. So now you have individual swatches that you can pick from for your colors. But like I said, I already have mine, so I'm just going to go from lightest to darkest for each layer. Now, once that's done, I'm going to select my border, switch that to white, and I'm also going to select the two graphic elements and my word, switch those to white, so it looks like they're going to be just coming off the edge of the frame here. Once I have all my colors set up, I'm just going to select everything, and I'm just going to right click on this X here and remove the outlines. One thing you'll notice is kind of this kind of artifacting white halo. It's just something that happens with Corel. A simple fix is to take each object and just contour out a little bit. Let's do that to each one. And yeah, you would have wanted to do this before you trimmed everything, just so you could combine them or use them so that each step would slightly overlap. But for our purposes, I'm only going to use the one here just because it won't have a drop shadow behind it. So we're just going to have the little extra just to cover that up. Once you have all your colors and everything set up, everything's looking at roughly at about this stage here. You're going to want to select the various layers here except for the one, and then over in the toolbar here you want to select the drop shadow tool, and you're just going to click anywhere near the center and just drag out. So one thing I'll need to do, you can see the drop shadows on the exterior here of each layer, which means my layers looks like they're stepping up instead of stepping down. So I'm just going to clear the drop shadow, and I'm just going to select the one, hit shift page down, shift click the next layer, hit shift page down, and repeat this for each layer. Once that's done, just deselect the one so you have just all the contour shapes here, and just grab the drop shadow tool again and just again click near the center, and there, that gives us the look we're going for with the shadow on the interior of each step. While everything's still selected and in this stage, up here at the top I want to change my shadow feathering to be a little bit less. 5 is a good setting for what I'm going for. And while everything's still selected, if you hit Control K, that'll separate all the new drop shadow objects from the layers here. So once that's done, I'm going to take each shadow image, and I'm just going to use the transform movement tool here and just move it 15 inches below it, just for each one, just because I want to be able to select them, and it's easier this way without all the detail of the vector objects on top. But now I'm going to select my 3 objects here, the white objects, and again using the drop shadow tool, I'm just going to give them a shadow, and again use the 5 for the feathering, and hit Control K. And now I'm just going to select those objects and again move them down and out of the way. And the last one, I want to give the frame a shadow, and if you noticed, these white objects are above my frame, so you see the shadow. So I'm going to want to select the frame and hit shift page up to make sure that my frame is above everything, and then I'm going to select these objects and again hit shift page up just for a later stage of ordering the layers. So select the shadows and again move them out of the way, and we're going to add our drop shadow to our frame. In this one I'm going to set my feathering off distance to just 2, just because it's a much larger object and everything else, so that matters. I'm going to hit Control K to separate the shadow from the object, and then I'm going to just again move it down below. So now I want to just convert all these shadow objects to bitmaps. So for ease of selection, I'm going to hit Shift F9 on my keyboard to go into wireframe, and now I just want to select each individual shadow object and hit K. And I'm going to convert to bitmap with a resolution of 300 dpi. And just hit OK. And I'm just going to repeat that for all of these shadow objects. Once you have that done, you can hit Shift F10 to go back into enhanced mode. I'm just going to select all my shadow objects, and the reason I use the transformation movement for moving stuff is just so that everything gets back into its original place. So -15, I'll just do 15 inches, and everything should be back where they started. And now I just want to use my arrow keys holding down Shift, and I'm just going to go down and over a couple times until I get a look where our light source would be up and to the left, causing our shadow, like a most dramatic shadow, on the upper left edges of our objects, and not as much shadowing on the right lower sides here. So now one last thing is our border frame shadow is above these white objects. So I just want to select that object. It should be pretty easy, and just hit Control page down a couple times until all three of the white objects are above the frame shadow, so that it looks like it's just one continuous shape. The other thing, one more last thing is with the frame shadow object selected, I just want to switch to the shape tool and move my edges of my shadow inside the outer edge of my rectangle here, just so that it looks like it's an infinite white edge around the illustration. So it looks like this is just a cutout in the middle of space, essentially. But once you have that done, you have successfully created a cutout illustration, in this case with the purposes of being used for a wedding table number card. And you can modify, you can take this essential template and process and modify for as many numbers as you need. Just changing the number, changing the text, maybe even changing and randomizing more of these kind of calligraphic elements, and you can get very creative with this type of illustration, and could make your table cards more interesting for your wedding guests. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this tutorial, found it interesting, inspiring, helpful. Yeah, have fun illustrating.